We are back to the usual scheduling, at least for as far as I can see. And yes, I have some Amityville news about the middle thing of the SRS Cinema anthology trilogy. Uh, Previously, I bought some stuff from them, or they mostly on Indiegogo. They are on Indiegogo. And it was, you buy a tank or special tanks, and then look, obviously you don't have to pay the postal fee for some disc, which can be quite ridiculous if you are not living in the US or, Mexico, Canada. So this time I also got this option. It wasn't written there before, but so I was not worried that it's not written there right now. Turned out that was my false assumption, and this time it was not included. But because I thought I got the thing or whatever, and I did not check my pledge, and so on and so on, and this was, it got delayed because someone from the directors making the segments, actually two of them, was late with their work. Yeah, it's an Amityville shit, so how can they be delayed with their work? But this is life. Either way, after like more than half a year after the deadline, I was like, who knows what's going on? So I asked, and it turned out the situation. But, as I said, but, there is a but, it will be, at least Ron Bonk says, it will be on streaming. The first one, Get a Bigger Theater, is not on streaming, was never on streaming, at least as far as I can tell. I got it borrowed from a person for me, a copy. I made a video with it, whatever. So that was what's going on Amityville, and there is an Amityville T-Rex or whatever. Geek Legion of Doom, a kind of friend of mine, made a review about a screener copy. So yeah, there will be a new one. I don't know it. I didn't see it anywhere on Indiegogo or IMDb or just randomly on YouTube, but apparently it exists. Now, there was one more thing I wanted to say because, things happened in my real life, whatever. So, I was hitting up, you know, I still will be working on the My Trader review. I finished it. It's a mess, but I wanted to make a review. I wanted to watch, actually, just watch one of those series which ended up in just no one cared anymore, not the audience, not the studio, and it had a male protagonist and who was always into women, and the series just faded out. There was like Hercules, the Kevin Sorbo version. There was the Highlander series, equally. And that one just, the last season is just the protagonist dating a bunch of women, and the story went nowhere, and it just ended up on a half season or something like that. And Knight Rider is like that, but it's the best of the bunch, if you ask me. It's at least had, you know, strong first season and a couple of strong episodes, and that kinda timeline of it. And talking about timelines, the Saturday morning cartoons, everybody knows at least the phrase. They were episodic series, always fighting the same bad guy, never winning, never losing, no real timeline. It's just episodic trash to sell toys. And it was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like after half a season, I tuned out because this was obviously going nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. I still collected stickers, but nope, I just didn't care anymore. And of course, there were a couple of. We didn't just have the American Saturday morning blocks, we had French and Belgian, or that kind of stuff. Some of theirs were horrible, some of those were big disappointments. Some of them watched back aged horribly. We loved them. Absolutely loved them, but aged horribly. It turned out they were musical. I don't. I didn't even remember they were musicals. Anyway, I try to, watch Mask, those transforming car thingies. As a kid, I liked it because I didn't care that it was episodic, and to be honest, I watched it in English or German at the neighbor, and I did not know the language. But it didn't matter, so that tells you something about this. And G.I. Joe, I rewatched, tried to re. I never watched the G.I. Joe. It was either not in our TV, or it was just at a bad point in the TV, whatever. But I watched the first season now, and the first season had a story. It really, there were writers and there was a story. From seasons 2, it's all went to the trash bin and it's episodic garbage. Like, Transformers is the most guilty of this. It just robots, new robots appearing every episode without rhyme or reason. The series are at flimsy excuse to follow each other up. It's just nonsense. It's you know the the problem is very obvious. One side, the Decepticons cannot win, and the Autobots do not want to win. So that's why it's eternally just hanging in there, and just don't waste your time. It's absolute garbage. But I checked out Power Rangers the second time. It was absolutely either not in our TV again, or I just didn't care at all and was in a bad time for me to watch. Look, what there were signs. I never got anywhere after like the first 5 episodes. So, but now I see they have their YouTube channel, everything uploaded, so I can skim through the, the parts I don't want to watch because it's a waste of my time. It's probably was the main attraction, the fight scenes and the transformations and ooh, the real life stuff. But there were signs that this will be, like Pokemon. Pokemon had a timeline, at least in theory. They went from one point to that, and so in theory there was a story, but it was like Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo didn't have a timeline or anything, but Scooby-Doo lived from its mediocrity. Never too bad, never too good. Just the same old reliable stuff. But Power Rangers first season is 60 episodes. You have to understand, no one is doing that because no one is doing even one episode a week for a year because you have to give, rest time for your crew. And you have like 52 weeks in a year. And that's more than that. It's more than one episode per week. What were they thinking? And I wanted some background lore. The first episode is good. At least 6 out of 10. Rita Repulsa crawls out from the galactic waste container or whatever it is and tells, oh, I was imprisoned in Tafel for 10,000 euros. And in episode 2, she says she imprisoned Zordon in a time warp, whatever that means. And I could swear Zordon is just bulk. He doesn't talk, doesn't do anything. He just floats there all fatty. By the way, Bulk is surprisingly agile. And he looks fat. But he could make 1,000, push-up, not push-up, the weight lift. You are laying on your back and doing that. 1,000. That guy is strong. And has a girlfriend. In episode 3 turned up a girlfriend for him. Great. And she doesn't have a name or, or a line even, but it's there. Great. But I wanted more of this. More of the galactic lore. And it's just another monster, another gimmicky item that we can sell in the shops. There are like new one in every episode, not just the monsters. And the whole thing is rushed. Can we have episode without a Megazord? Just a regular Zord. But no, first episode we get the Megazord. The second episode we get, I don't know, a Megazord weapon, because they all get some regular weapon, the sword and the bow and the whatever, and they assemble to a Megazord weapon or something. And it's just holding the thing. What is going on here? The part that it's cut together from Sentai, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't look like two shows just cut together, like Roger Corman movies or whatever, those ultra cheap garbage Hollywood movies. This looks like it had some standards. But man, who will sit through 60 episodes of a meaningless nothing? And I try to find a timeline which ranger changes actor and changes color and all that, and it's nowhere. That's why the only thing I was sitting down for this, because the information is not out there. It's why. But why Power Rangers lost its audience? You seriously have to ask that? Fat jokes, racial stereotypes, nonsense bullshit. The monsters are cool, I guess, but the real life stuff, we had edutainment crap in our TV, I guess by the content, mass problem and that kind of stuff was aimed for 10, 12 to 14, 16. But the talking down mentality, the character who was taught was like 5. An imbecile. It's dumb, like the robot here, awful. It's just, wow. Dude, you can't sell this shit today. It's just no way. It's just, there is no chance. Where did the audience go? Dude, Power Rangers stuck in the past, and not just for the cheap suits, but the whole thing on the conceptual level is even wrestling realized that if you put in a terrorist Muslim stereotype, that won't go well. That's just not going well. Or there was that, I don't remember who was the guy, buff blonde guy with military hair and had a promoter in, this West American, and they always waved the American flag. We are the big America. They were some Republican parody, or who knows, maybe it wasn't parody. It didn't go well. It was so ham-fisted that he eventually faded out because, one side didn't like it because it looked like the real thing. The other side didn't like it because it looked like parody. You just don't do that. Nowadays you don't. It worked in the 80s, but it's this shit even started in the 90s. It was so behind.